Any other questions? Those are some good questions to start. Yes, sir.
So, following your question, so if a fleet leaves, what happens to the data on your server?
The fleet leaves, and what we'll do right now, give them the opportunity to download it if they choose to leave. We haven't addressed it, but today what we would do is probably park it and hope that we could reclaim as a customer. But the data in there is not accessible for another fleet. It's not accessible. It's there. It's like if you stop using Microsoft Outlook. Everything that's in there is your information. The only difference is it's on our servers, but the data that you're giving that you're giving truck rate is your instance's data. Roles and permissions. When somebody logs into your system, you can go into your user file and you can see who's logged into your system. So if a driver logs in, one of your employees logs in, very accountable. So if somebody's logging into your system, it's there. Yes, Ed?
Just to continue what you're saying, so do you mean that the instance is shut off, deactivated, so the data is not accessible by any means until it's turned back on?
I don't know if anybody's technical in the room. LA used to be, he's retired military, was with NORAD for over 10 years, air defense software. I don't think data ever really goes anywhere. What we're saying is that it won't be accessible or used by anybody. We go through a security process with hiring our developers. Our developers are all understanding that we are building an HR system. My developers call it HRIS, Human Resource Information System. They don't care about trucking, they don't care what they do, but to them it's software, to them it's human resources, and their protocols follow their experiences. Our team lead comes from Big Bank. That's his background, 20 years doing bank infrastructure. The lady that runs the dad side, master's degree, computer sciences, 8 or 10 years with Microsoft. Specifically, she was on big retail systems that Microsoft was outsourced to do. One of our top developers, his background is hospitals, secure data. So the people that we have on our team on the development are not people that you would find, well, maybe they are in the basement playing games, but these guys are, and ladies, are professional developers. And this is what they do when they're on staff. We don't outsource the development. They work for truck rate data management, and they don't develop something else. We have, like the views that you see, we have designers on staff as well for the aesthetic side, but it's in-house. It's not outsourced. We handle the control. And I think one of the things Julie alluded to earlier, the feedback that we get from the fleets, if it makes sense, it gets put into production. And if it makes sense to Julie, it likely is going to make sense to all of us. So it just goes through the process of getting into the software. And our process, depending on how complex the idea is taking a piece of information, analyzing what the true requirements mean. You have no idea how long it takes us to come up with the word active candidate and prospect pool. 4 hours just on those 2 terms. Because what does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? That's why we have a glossary. There's a simple one here, but in truck rate, because the terms to us in the software, you need to understand what do we mean by those terms. So every piece of information, we go through the requirements, which is what we call a user requirement, put the user requirement into production, then we test it, put it to coop our staff, test it again, and then we sign off on it and it goes right out into the fleet. So you all have the same code base, but you all have separate databases. Again, back to this one here right now, this is Harriet.truckrate. It's a very separate database, so my files from Harriet aren't going into Transams aren't going into Cooney's. Everybody's database is kept separate. Yes, Ed?
It's not a question, well, it kind of is. A good time to talk about, I don't know if we covered yet, the feedback, because people, you're all going to see, or you're all seeing some functionality that I think is very interesting, but is there something, is there a gap anywhere that you'd be interested in giving us feedback on, giving Dirk and his team feedback on, and maybe that kind of thing would be implemented into the system later on?
What Ed's asking is basically from what you've seen so far are there things in maybe I haven't covered off that I could show you that's in the system? Maybe you've got a great idea that I'll steal and put it in the system. Again, it's all about making the system better. Is there anything anybody can think of from a safety recruiting standpoint? Here we go, we got a couple of good ones here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you were doing a reference for company A this year and company B next year, does the system compare the information from the previous year because you now know you're dealing with the same driver?
Are you talking to DAD services, the references? So basically, what DAD does, because it's a repository, we trust that the reference that was given the first time is the reference. So we store that reference, and that's the locked reference. And we can, at any time, if the driver doesn't agree with the reference, we have the process for contesting and rebuttal. But we don't change that. We won't call the fleet every year to say, is there more information or less information? We would trust that the information they gave us is that answering your question?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, I was just wondering if you had a test environment. You know, I'm impressed, but I'm kind of dazzled. So I was just thinking, you know, the ability to sit down and in a test environment and kind of maybe run through it just to get a real live in the face look at it. Would that be something you
Definitely, and that's what Harriet trucking is.
Okay.
And one of the nice things about Harriet is you can't break it. Every night it resets it. So go in, delete it, play with it, add, subtract, minus, show it to your coworkers, show it to decision makers, but you can't hurt it. And if you can, let me know and we'll fix it. Some good points, some good questions. Luke, any thoughts? Luke's seen this. Oh, sorry, am I missing a hand?
Sorry, I just had another question.
Yes.
So DAD is a separate entity to TruckRate. It's like an add-on.
DAD is a service.
It's a separate service. It's an add-on, but it
TruckRate is the software.
Right. So if you had all your information, you'd use DAD to get your references, DAD to get your drug and alcohol history.
Yes.
And that is uploaded on TruckRate and it's permanently there in your database.
It's in yours, yes.
Okay.
It's, again, the whole premise of,
So if I use the dashboard and somebody at DAD is updating it, when I go to the dashboard, it updates it as they're updating it?
yes and no.
Okay.
We don't put information in your database, you pull it.
Oh, we pull it, okay.
And that's back to the dashboard. Initially, again, this was a trial and error thing. When we first did it, you'd have to go to each individual driver and click update, and it would give you the log of what we've done so far or grab the information. But what we've done now, again, depending on the size of your fleet, so this would be, I just want to get to the bottom of this widget here. So right now, this fleet, Harriet, has 60 entries. So 60 drivers are waiting to be processed through DAD. You'll see sometimes there are the same driver a couple of times. When you click request, it becomes a separate request. And where an example of that would be is you wanted to do his employment history now, but you wanted to do his drug and alcohol later. So you may not have had the consents right away, and the system won't let you do it. So that's why you may see a driver a couple times. They're color coded. The white, no action. The yellow means that we're on our way. The dark green, actually that's just because it's highlighted, but there's a green that would tell you that we're complete. The DAD, everything you've ordered from DAD is done. We don't take it off here. We let you do that because when it's complete, you need to look at it. You need to check. So in here, you would be able to remove it, and then it's off. All it does is take it off this widget. When you look at it, it won't disappear. You actually physically, there's a button off to the right here that's not showing on the screen for remove, and then it goes away. Some of the services that do the background checks offer we offer a credit. So if you use the DAD services through us, every time you hire or not hire somebody, that's what this column here is. You let us know that you've hired them or not hired them, and we put them in the database and start a record on that person, and we give $1 credit for that.
So how many attempts are you making then, like if you're doing a reference check, for example? Is there a parameter, like you keep trying, and then cut it off at a certain point?
DOT from is 3 times.
Yeah.
We don't find that that meets what the fleets are looking for. I would have to ask Amy, we're probably hitting 5. We go over our standard procedure, and Amy, correct me if I'm wrong as I go through this. Our standard procedure when we have a request is to pick up the phone, call that fleet. We don't just send them a token. If we can get the person on the phone and manually capture the data, that's step 1. If that person's not available or not comfortable, they want the release, we'll send them the release. Do you want us to call you back? We're about speed. We're about getting you the... I understand getting a truck moving. I understand getting a driver in the truck. So the second step, we sent off the signed release. We could call, they may ask us to call back once they have the release, and then they give us, or we send them a token, they log on. I know, and I don't want to mention fleets, but they're not our customers. The fleets that are using some of them are fast, like moments, and then responding to them because it's so convenient, so easy. It's not getting up from your desk, it's on your desktop. You're not faxing anything. You can print what you filled in for your records because you provided information, and we can, Amy gets notified as soon as a request is fulfilled, and then we put it into a queue, and when you click update all 60 people will grab whatever's in the queue for those 60 people. It will also update you the last time we did something, what's missing. All of that is quick and visual. So right when we first started, we didn't have that feature, and we were actually doing emails at the end of the day to our test customers and sending them emails of our daily progress so that they knew what we were doing. Again, we're about accountability to you, and that's why we were doing it with the emails, but now we have it built into the software. On the individual driver, you can see the status. Gary.
When you said that the drivers don't go into a database, when you say not hired, who has access to that database? Because somebody else's criteria might not be mine. Does anybody else have access to that criteria of that driver that's available?
Gary's question is basically, once they win DAD services, I think he's saying, is this a searchable pool for drivers? It is not.
So nobody has access.
Nobody has access to it. The not hired means not hired. We really, and I'll be frank with you, on the not hired, we don't really do a whole lot with that data. The hired, we start an employment record. Back to Johnny Rocket and running over Mrs. Milko's cat. He worked for you for 2 days. Ran over to Cat, you said, sorry Johnny, you don't work here anymore. We know that he started working for you, because James now has sent in a request the next day, and Johnny said, well, I never worked for that company. So he doesn't put it on the application. Application comes to us, we have a start employment date. We'll pick up the phone, Julie, what happened with Johnny? Isn't he working for you? Can you send us a separation report? Yeah, he just ran over a cat, we had to cut him loose. So that's the purpose of the hired credit, so that we know to start an employment record. So yes sir.
Okay. Driver verification services are a great idea, but there have been other companies that have offered that service.
Yes.
We in trucking are our own worst enemies. We want to have the information when we hire a driver, but we fail to inform these verification services when we terminate drivers, right? And